After losing 2 straight in the series without Curry, the still war Dallas Warriors were looking to bounce back on Monday night, and they failed to get it done. This comes following the Warriors cutting their deficit down to 7 but coming up short in Game 2, and then leading for mostly the entire game, yet getting out-executed down the stretch in Game 3. However, based off this answer from Steve Kerr post-game following Game 3, the Warriors' confidence wasn't shaken.
I felt good about the way the game went tonight. We just couldn't close it out. And again, give them credit. They made all the plays in the fourth, and Randall and Edwards really got going. And we couldn't quite, overcome them once we got down. But we controlled much of that game, and up 6 or whatever it was, 8 minutes to go. I liked where we were. We just couldn't finish. So the formula looks good. We'll have some adjustments to make, but I like the matchup. I like what we're doing.
In Game 4, for a second straight game, Steve went with TJD in the starting 5 next to Green, Butler, Hield, and Pods. Regarding the Warriors' injured superstar who sustained a hamstring injury for the first time in his 16-year career, according to Anthony Slater, Curry went through a court workout and rode the bike pregame yesterday. It wasn't full speed, but it was an initial step in his attempted return. With this result, the Warriors still have to win a game to extend the series to 6 for a potential Game 6 return. Over his last 5 playoff games, Brandon Pajemski is averaging 7.8 points per game on a measly 25% shooting from the field on 16.7% shooting from three-point range. We saw how Pods could produce late in the regular season, but the playoffs are obviously much different in terms of the game planning and defensive intensity. So up to this point, he hasn't been able to be a top 3 scoring option, let alone an efficient scoring option in general. This man Pajemski needs to be better in Game 6, as what happened to the Brandon who could get to the mid-range and finish at the rim? If Brandon continues missing at the volume that he has been, it's just tough to win, especially when you don't have the luxury of Stephen Curry's shot making. Unfortunately, the Warriors haven't gotten enough production from the number 1 option without Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler. Jimmy dropped 33 in Game 3, but couldn't close it out by scoring down the stretch like he needed to, as the Warriors couldn't close without the closer. Then in Game 4, Jimmy put up a measly 9 shot attempts and was a game-low -30. The pressure's on the Butler to respond and step up in Game 5. Steve Kerr made 2 crucial mistakes in Game 4, which were A, not taking Looney out when he was clearly unable to keep up on the backside defensively, and B, overplaying Gary Payton II and not playing Jonathan Kuminga enough. Kuminga received merely 30 minutes in Game 4, 6 minutes less than he played in Game 3, despite the fact that Jonathan had 30 points in that outing, which should have earned him at least 40 minutes in Game 4. I get Jonathan was a -13, which was 10 worse than Payton II, but if you watch the game, Jonathan's extra scoring and ability to pressure relieve for Butler was missed when he wasn't out there. The Wolves were able to make some of the biggest runs they made with Kuminga on the bench. Shout out to Jonathan, who over his last 3 games has averaged 24, 4, and 2 on a ridiculous 60% shooting from the field and 44% shooting from distance. Kuminga likely won't be on the team next season due to his impending restricted free agency, and let's be frank with how he's been treated by Kerr, but while he's here, you gotta play him as much as possible. These were the top sound bites after the Dubs Game 4L.
You have you pregame, having some fun with the night. How tough is it to not have that player on the court competing against you, to have someone to have that game within the game against, and how do you keep that even though he's not in the game?
Sometimes it's tough, but trust me, man, I wish he could be out there to play against him, no matter how it goes. But yeah, just from working out with him in the summer, that's what I told him after I hit a Tracy, because he told me I had missed one. He was like, "You weren't gonna make that. You was too open," and I was like, "I ain't gonna never stop shooting him. I learned that from you this summer." So yeah, man, he's the greatest shooter of all time. So I would definitely love to compete against him, man. But he got hurt, unfortunately, and I hope he gets better.
Before I start, I want to apologize to y'all. I didn't talk the other day. I was quite a bit frustrated and very careful of. Didn't want to get myself fined, but more so say something and make it sound like an excuse when you struggle and lose. And I didn't come up here and talk, and I felt like a coward when I got home, so I wanted to apologize to y'all for that. They were collapsing on them today. So, we tried to pick up that slack. But I know he's not feeling well. Been pretty crappy all day, so that also affects the energy as well. But, no excuses made here. I think that's on me. I got to find a way to get him in position, more position to score. I think tonight I was just trying to get him the ball, and I don't think I got him the ball in good spots, which then allowed the defense to load up on him. So I got to do a better job there of getting him the ball in better spots to where it's not as easy for the defense to key on.
The mindset and mood's still very high. We're keeping our hopes, we're keeping our energy, our vibe still great. Because we all just got to go get that one. But I think everybody's mindset is it's good. Nobody's down.
Steve, you obviously saw Anthony Edwards for 6 weeks last summer in practices, not just the games, but how much did you see his three improving the way it obviously has, and how much does that change the equation? I mean, he was always a tough cover, but I imagine now when he's making threes like that, it's very, very different.
Yeah, this has been an amazing shooting year for him, shooting as many as he is, I think 10 or 11 per game. That's way up from his first few years in the league. So I think the last couple summers have been great for him with USA Basketball, working out every day with all those guys. And Chris has done a great job with him, with that team. And it's a natural progression for Anthony to be doing what he's doing, given how talented he is and what a good shooter he is. So his threes, obviously, he had some really tough ones tonight. The one at the end of the first half was incredible. So he's a great player, and that's the challenge. We've got to try to slow him down in Game 5.
They hit shots. They shot the ball extremely well. I thought we defended good in spurts, but they got going and we never was able to put out the fire. So got to give them a lot of credit. Kind of felt like they were due for a great shooting night. Sucks that it had to be tonight, but it was, and we just got to figure it out and coming back in Game 5.
Given the result tonight, we've got to look at Game 5 and see if we want to make any lineup changes and rotation changes, but those guys will both be ready. I thought last 4.5 minutes was fantastic. The young guys going out there and playing the way they did, forcing Minnesota to keep their starters out there. That's important. It's always important to close games well, and I loved what those guys did. And they all played well, and that matters to me, looking at what's next for Game 5.